So, how is the day?
The day has been. I went back to work for the first time today.
Oh,
Yeah, after a 10-day break, 2024, the anticlimax.
yeah, something's
Yeah,
going
no,
on
yeah.
this year for sure. Like, this is the year of the financial collapse, where all those dystopian movies that we've been indoctrinated with since birth begin. Like Denzel Washington's, what's that movie with Denzel Washington? Book of
The
Elijah.
Book of Eli. Yeah.
Book of Eli, yeah, that's a great movie actually. And then The Road, which has that Italian actor who was in what's he from? Doesn't matter anyway. But yeah, that's coming.
Yeah, hopefully not, but yeah, you know,
But yeah, but we know it is.
sometimes
The cut.
they delay things, for some reason. But yeah, I mean, we're always moving a step towards their stranglehold getting tighter for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. The cutlasses will be coming out at some point. You'll be going to a supermarket with dual pistols and knives in your socks. That's the kind of route that we're onto. So today, what is our topic? Because we've got a few things up our sleeve, haven't we?
I think we're gonna do part two of very smart kids, geniuses, whatever you want to call them, child prodigies, whatever superlative you want to use, and also like what I would say is people's unhealthy fascination with dogs and possible, a possible movement associated with that.
It's a very
Um,
generous description. I would go straight in and say these people are fucking fiends, and that bestiality is rife throughout this world. I think there are as many, if not more, people that are into animals sexually than there are people that are into children. Because I think by the fact that there are people into children, it wouldn't make sense for there not to be the equivalent amount concerning animals. But I think because animals are more accessible and there's not as much kind of, let's say, um, looking, for lack of a better descriptor, towards that neck of the woods, I think people gravitate towards that would otherwise gravitate towards children. I think the fucking animal sex industry is absolutely fucking huge. And on that note, just a very quick thing before I go into a tangent, because it literally just sparked into my mind. One of my favorite topics of all time, which is Operation Gladio, which listeners, I really recommend just looking into Operation Gladio. It gives people a very pure understanding of the alternative universe. And in that book, there's an assassination of a man. It's all a true story. So it's just a magistrate that was knocked off who had a kind of fascination for Brazilian transgenders that would frequent the Paris boulevards because they make more money. They fly over to Paris like fuck old men and then go back to Brazil. But the same guy that was whacked off was in sex parties in Paris where they would have sex with donkeys, basically. They'd be fucking donkeys and horses and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it does go on.
oh yeah, absolutely. It's been documented visually. So
100%.
yeah, we have no doubts.
So should we begin with the child prodigies again? Part two.
Yes. Happy 2024, people.
Oh yeah. Sorry about it isn't it? It is 2024, isn't it?
Mm.
Shit. Yeah. And also probably keep your device on have your headphones in. I wouldn't have this on speaker because we've already discussed animals getting banged, and if your kids are around in the house, they probably don't want to hear about what we're going to end up talking about. So especially if you're in a cafe or something like that, or on a train, make sure the wire is plugged in, or your Bluetooth headset isn't funneling out our filth into the greater universe.
Indeed. So, without further ado, if you'd like to kick us off on
Well, as
your opening
okay,
thoughts. Yeah.
yeah, opening thoughts. Bit spicy actually. So you just like I've been inspired, and something's come to mind, a little eureka moment, which is film, and how there's a big emphasis on child prodigies in movies. So Harry Potter's obviously an obvious one, but also the X-Men, because isn't the X-Men about essentially finding children that have all these powers and all these capabilities, and then essentially kidnapping them in a roundabout way. It's very similar to Harry Potter. It's kind of, obviously for the marketplace, it's not necessarily depicted as a kidnapping per se, but it's the idea that children of special caliber are sent off to these secret schools, and they're kind of molded and given the ability to kind of thrive and sponsor their kind of inner magic. And we looked at the term magic, didn't we, last week? I can't remember, what was it associated with. There was something to do with magic. Genie. There we go. Genie. Yeah, geniuses, child geniuses, magic, and yeah, that's something that's often portrayed in these kind of movies that are very popular. Harry Potter and X-Men being just two examples. So yeah, what do you reckon to that? Do you reckon there's a secret underground world where energies are harvested? I mean, we know they certainly harvest children's blood, and again, without going into tangent, I can't remember if it was brought up in the last episode, but there was a news headline, and I think actually it was after we did the episode that just came up on my feed, and it was how a school in New Jersey in the United States, sorry, a private hospital, has been found guilty of harvesting children's blood, specifically babies. So when mothers go in to deliver their baby, the blood was essentially being fucking confiscated and harvested. Which we know goes on.
I mean, what I find most bizarre about that story is the fact that there were no criminal charges.
I know, yeah.
So you're found to have been harvesting blood illegally of children. I mean, if I steal a packet of cookies from a supermarket, I will literally face criminal charges. But yet, somehow stealing blood of a human being, regardless of age, just imagine just stealing blood of a human being, and they're sued. So that's a civil matter. Like, is it only a civil matter because it was a company stealing the blood? So if me or you steal blood, because we're not a company, we'll get criminally charged. Is like
That's
and
a
like this
great
is
point.
the
That's a great point.
and this is the like insanity that we live in. And I'm gonna go on a slight tangent. It's like people like subscribe to things that don't make sense. Like literally, this is like mainstream news. This is like this story that we're talking about was reported on like NBC, CBN, CNN, BBC level like networks, and like people just watch this and they're like, oh yeah, and like people don't look at the obvious and see the lack of accountability that's constantly shown. It can be like a country invaded another country. It's like, oh yeah, it was a mistake, or whatever, yeah, we killed people. But if me or you kill somebody by accident, it's not anyway. Yeah, it's painfully obvious, but to us and the listeners who are in what kind of minority, possibly even in the 1%, because what on the street, is it 1 in every 100 people that have elevated themselves to a state of understanding, even 60 to 70% of that of which we have of the real world, for lack of a better term. And not to sound self righteous, but I can confidently say that I have an ability to discern truth, and I can confidently say that my dear friend John Ho also has the ability to discern truth, but I can't see that everywhere. It's still quite a unique thing to come across. But yeah.
Well, it's strange, isn't it, on this, because human beings are here today because our ancestors, with what is essentially encoded into all of us, which is the capacity or the requirement, the need, however you want to word it, to survive, instinct to stand up on your 2 feet when you're a toddler and work your way from there, kind of like physical and mental progression is something that keeps us all alive. We have reactions to things that may prove to be dangerous, you know, spiders, bears, snakes, and yet people are completely incapable of being able to denote that walking into a fucking voting station come election day in no way decides the outcome of your life and is a completely corrupt, rigged game intended to just mock the general populace. But yet at the same time, these people can walk into a rainforest and probably feel that there's a bad energy around them and there's a fucking angry baboon charging them from the treetops, and they're trying to evade that scenario as best as they can. That's an instinct. That's a logical instinct that they're not just promoting, but they're utilizing. You know, it's in everyone's accolade. It's in our arsenal. Sorry, to kind of try and evade such situations. Yet when it comes to basic understanding with respect to politics and current affairs and things that are actually far more simple, you'd think, to implement and store away in your kind of in your mental archive. You know, people are just incapable of that, and that leads me to think that the level of poisons and toxins that are being implanted into our lives are, you know, so much so that people are blocked, if you like. There's a blockage happening up there in the, whatever you want to call it, the third eye or whatever, that just is preventing the vast majority of people from seeing light and truth. Because the level of idiocy from someone that can go and, let's say, undertake a several year program on, I don't know, orthopedics or whatever, and come out understanding how certain things function to a high level, and yet they can't even realize that a man wearing a suit that calls himself the prime minister or the president is no more than just a fucking paid actor.
Yeah, exactly.
It's scary.
And it's funny because that kind of loosely ties into the whole child prodigy things. Based on what you said about the poisons and, you know, the things that people are exposed to, that particular example that I gave of Eskrit Jaswal, this is a rural kid living in, like, you know, agricultural little village in the middle of India. So he's probably eating, you know, good food. And this is the case in like Russia and lots of these like fairly clean places in parts of Eastern Europe. And then just as you might get it in certain parts of Asia, in so just any, in fact, you'll probably find that there are more, you know, child prodigies that probably just come from villages in general, you know, or kids are smarter, kids tend to be healthier and stronger, that, you know, that eat, you know, good food, tend to be less diseased, less brain damaged, sometimes less autistic, although sometimes autism can convert itself to a
There are
form of,
definitely a lot of retards in rural villages. I would
yeah,
say that.
yeah, absolutely.
There's some
In
bad
terms of
breeding that's been going
inbreeding,
on.
yeah,
Yeah, if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
banging your sister, for, you know, if people are banging their sisters and their mothers in villages over hundreds of years, I've seen the effects of that in rural Pakistan. Literally every other person has like one eye or deformed limbs. So many people are unable to conceive children in Pakistan because every guy is literally fucking his sister. To the point where I was staying in a hotel up in Aptabad, and this, he was a really nice guy. He was like, "Oh yeah, we can't have kids." And then he told me the story about how when he was younger, daddy took him and his brothers to Karachi to their cousin's house where the cousins were lined up, and he said, "Oh, choose which one you want." So they all ended up with their cousins, and you know, he can't have children because of it. So I don't know if there's less retardation in rural societies, but I would say there's probably a greater chance of genius from erupting, given that kids are forced into situations, voluntary or kind of involuntarily, where, you know, they have to apply themselves, and that early application and that necessity for life coming from ingenuity and a focus on that ingenuity is what breeds an understanding of things at a more rapid rate than sitting in a stagnant classroom in, say, the United States or the UK or wherever, where, you know, kids are just being thrown a book with fucking pictures of transgenders banging each other.
Yeah, yeah, literally. And you know, obviously, like, it's actually kind of very normal and like very socially acceptable to like marry a cousin in Pakistan. Like,
Oh yeah, completely. It's
so
weird if you don't, I think.
Yeah, so you're so much less far removed from incest as a like base point over there. Um, but yeah, back to what I was saying. It's like, okay, let's just like take the incest factor out of the equation. Generally speaking, like brain development and diet are probably intertwined, or do you think that that's just like a
Well,
hoax?
I
Do you think maybe
completely I agree that that's the case, but actually I don't think a lot of rural places do have healthier food, as weird as that may sound. I think some of the examples you gave were absolutely spot on. I think Eastern Europe, I think Russia, I think there's a culture there which is very much more educated, irrespective of how rural said examples might be, because there's like an affiliation with, for example, European culture and a history of, I guess, more trade. But if it takes South America for an example, where I am now, or Central America, um, people's diet here is absolutely appalling. It's the worst place in the world I've ever been. Every other child is packing a 2 liter bottle of Coca-Cola. Everyone chugs Coca-Cola. It's Coca-Cola or greasy food. I mean, the obesity rates are higher in South and Central America than most other places in the world. I mean, Mexico is one of the fattest places in the world. Many South American and Central American countries, the diet is utterly appalling, irrespective of how rural communities may be. So I think the idea that just because someone's out in nature, it's kind of by default they should be eating well. It's often not the case, because a lot of people aspire to be city folk, and that's the problem. That's why there's a massive migration internationally of people from rural areas to city life, where there's a perceived greater level of opportunity, and that kind of we're defined by capitalistic endeavor now. Like consumerism is kind of become a measurement in most people's eyes of success, and people can't seem to kind of detract kind of monetary value from health. There seems to be a connotation where people assume that because something costs money, it is by default good for you, and that picking the berries from the bush is just, it holds less value than picking up the 50-cent bottle of Sprite at the local supermarket. So I don't know. I think it's a hit and miss. I don't think it's universal.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely not universal. You're going to have exceptions to rules always, absolutely. Um, but I think that that's like potentially. But then I'm actually willing to contradict myself here. There's so many cases of like crack babies being born that are just fucking
It's true.
yeah, physical and yeah, mental kind of specimens. Yeah, sometimes pressure makes diamonds, and sometimes having like comfortable surroundings makes fucking dummies and softies.
That's true. Yeah, yeah, that is.
It's yeah, it's a tough one, and I think maybe it just shows that essentially intellect is, and in terms of these child geniuses and how and why they're born, or children with a mental capacity beyond their years, if we're gonna be more technical with the term, that it's just something that's maybe innate from like their family tree. It could be some kind of akashic record unlocked from a former life potentially, or something ancestral, but something that's a bit more far removed. It could be something quote unquote spiritual, or just down to wiring, or it could just be fluke and a luck, because sometimes these people are born to parents that don't have high IQs, whereas sometimes you can just see in some families that that family's got a knack. Mum and dad were quite well educated, and like the children just kind of without too much coaching from parents just kind of assimilated the same,
It could
just
also be the crack.
yeah. And so it could be because it's a fucking
Could be.
stimulant. It's a central
Yeah,
nervous stimulant.
yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely. And by the
yeah,
way, on that note, did you used to eat crisps when you were younger, or do you eat
I,
crisps?
I still eat crisps to this day.
Do you
Absolutely.
remember those ones that were the shapes of teddy bears? They were like ready salted, and they were just little teddy bears.
Yes, I do.
Right. So imagine if we brought out a brand and it was called Crack Babies, and it was like little pieces. So it's like those crisps, but instead of the shape of a teddy bear, it's like the mold of a crack baby, and it just makes sense as well, doesn't it? Because crackle,
It's
when you
just
eat the
all
crisp,
kinds
it
of just
crackles.
random
Just
shapes and like
yeah, and we could bring it out at Halloween. Like it could be like a Monster Munch special, like Monster Munch crack babies, and
and have like three
and
different pink ones, yellow ones, and brown ones. Like that's just
exactly. And what were those sweets? Toxic waste. Do you remember the toxic wastes?
yeah, I remember
So
that.
like yeah,
Yeah,
and that's the kind of scenario you put it in your mouth and it would fucking taste like an absolute just like toxic waste, which is what you'd expect from a crack baby. I mean, I'm
but you
sure.
could even like add some kind of like natural kind of, not even natural, just some kind of non-lethal anesthetic. Let's give the mouth numbing effect, like a little bit
Oh
of
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
yeah.
oh, I think that's a good idea. So if anyone's listening, if anyone's
Yeah, if anyone
listening,
knows any
don't.
crisp producers, crisp manufacturers, people that could do packaging, yeah, put us on, and yeah, you might get a few percent of something.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Right. So child chess prodigy. What's his name? Arwa.
Oh no, that wasn't that. That was the kid that was the surgeon at the age of 7 years
Oh
old.
well. Oh yeah, we discussed him last week, didn't we? I
And
mean, this is
yeah,
assuming that this isn't all just Masonic mockery, given that every story that's published is generally a fiction anyway, and it's just a fucking elaborate tale of something just to kind of like essentially say to the general public, your kids are thick. This kid is able to do this kind of because it is it
no, but
quite is
it's
it's
probably true though. Our
conceivable.
kids
Oh
are.
yeah, it's probably not real. Oh no, yeah, most people's kids are thick, of course, but like you know, I just don't know. Everything that we hear about for a reason. Not because it's the most valuable thing in the public eye, not because it's something that's going to positively change the effect of society. The stories that are published are handpicked by the cabal for various reasons. Many of them are all encoded with things or are themselves just code, numerological code. But when there is something more like with a little bit more depth, like this, child prodigy becoming a fucking surgeon and performing surgery on his sister at age 7, I do think to myself, it sounds like a load of bollocks. And, it's not because you can't have, because it's not, logically possible to have, these prodigies. They do come out the woodwork all the time. And most of the inventions that we're using today, cell phones, one such example, have been created by people that are just thinking outside the box at a rate that's just not comprehensible to most of us. And consequently, they have this genius factor and they produce. But at the same time, and it's not because it's rural India. Again, I completely agree. I think it's just pot luck. It's random. We don't know exactly what might cause these kind of genie factors to happen, but it's certainly not a derivative of having money or being poor. It's just it can happen to anyone at any time. Hence the crack baby analogy or example rather. But it's
So
just
I
so many
I would
weird things in it.
I would be inclined to think. No, I think it's a very natural deduction to be like, no fucking way. A 7-year-old, just like somebody says, oh yeah, there's like a dog that can fucking paint a picture. You'd be like, no fucking way. But this actually exists. It's not a detailed picture, but it's there's actually a structure to what this dog painted in a particular video, which is quite
That's
mind blowing in itself.
Well, it could also be fake. This is what's getting scary. You know as well as
That's
I do
possible.
that you can just
I think
create
with the dog
anything now.
yeah, absolutely. With the dog video, I think it's more possible for it to be fake because it's not a free flowing video. It's been edited 100 times to create somewhat of a compilation. But what
But
you
even the free
see
flowing
is
video can be fake. That's what's
fake.
scary. Like
It
everything
can,
is fake.
yeah, it can be like like deep fakes are
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, they
Literally,
are, and those are the ones that the public
yeah,
get to see. It's using
exactly.
so.
Absolutely, that's absolutely true.
And if we think of
So,
history, dinosaurs, what a load of bollocks that is.
uh,
That's the fakest thing ever, like to the point where it's openly admitted that virtually every so-called
dinosaur,
paleontologist
yeah,
and all this nonsense, they were dishing out fakes like during the period of discovery. Like even the people that are um, I guess, titled today as having discovered many of these bones. Before they discovered those bones, they were done with all kinds of forgeries. They're all just fake artists. It's like open public knowledge for people that actually want to look. It's all bollocks. Why would these people be faking stuff half the time and then be allowed to be, given the title as the discoverer of something that wasn't fake? I mean, isn't it a bit suspicious if you faked 100 before? What's the chance that the next so-called dinosaur bone is actually going to be a dinosaur? And of course, dinosaurs don't exist. It's just mockery. It's all bullshit. It's a mechanism by which to destroy any kind of aura of truth, as we know. I mean, all the historical narratives supplanted within the education system for most of the masses to lap up. It's all just open.
99%
It's 99% bollocks. Yeah. And you take World War II. We won't obviously go into certain details of this on YouTube because it's a totalitarian enterprise, and we have the police knocking on our door. German police will probably fly over to England or wherever we happen to be and kick the doors down. But even things in the main wars are just open nonsense, and yet they're taught in every single school around the world. The kids are propagandized to the point where it's become objective fact, and that's how easy it is to create a lie. You say a lie enough times and it becomes the truth, and that's where we're at. And it doesn't know the sky's really not the limit. It goes beyond the sky. It's just fucking incredible what you can produce if you've got the money to kind of fund the falsity, fund the fad, the facade of just fucking illogical practice. But yeah. So this Jawwal or whatever his name is, he could well be a child prodigy. Yeah, but it could also be that he's he's in some lineage of fucking fake artists, magicians, connected individuals. Maybe he's got some Hebrew blood in him. Who knows? There could be something there that we can't comprehend or contemplate, but it's code for something else that's happening. Because just a part of me feels like when these people are discovered, and I'm not saying they don't exist. I don't think such things can't happen. It's just they'd be lapped up immediately by all the secret agencies when someone's discovered to have these magical powers and these energies that go beyond what most people have. Someone's going to fucking swoop in and take them immediately.
Well, that's exactly what happened with him. That was exactly what happened. So,
where is he now?
Oh, they fucked straight away. Oxford and Cambridge said, "Here, come." And we know Oxford and Cambridge are the institution, are the educational propagandizers of this country.
Yeah, 100%. But I think it goes deeper than that. I mean, there's probably fucking literally underground universities, and I mean that both metaphorically, but actually, literally Resident Evil style.
For sure. That's not even question. That absolutely exists. Absolutely exists. Yeah. So it's possible that maybe it's actually possible that this kid could have been. In fact, it's even possible that these child prodigies could be part of some kind of intentional artificial insemination.
Oh, I agree. I believe it. I believe that 100%. Yeah, but
so they could be, supplanted in certain families, and potentially it could be like, okay, we're going to choose India to be the place that creates like maybe more of these so-called prodigies per capita relative to GDP or whatever, because some fucking influential baby in Kabbalophilia in India just says that we want this title for our country. Just want and other countries didn't really care about that. They wanted it to be kings of other things, like we'll have the best infrastructure, we'll have the best this rate or that rate. Maybe like the king of India was like, we will have the most child prodigies, and therefore go in the villages at night and fucking inseminate these poor village ladies via laser beam on a fucking invisible drone, which is not beyond the realms of possibility at all.
I was looking up another example about how there were twins in New York, basically, that were separated at birth, and it was secretly it was one of these fucking experiments, basically. And then they met each other, or supposedly they met each other. It was artificially planned, so they wanted to see how these twins would react meeting for the first time. But do you know what happened when I googled that? Another example came up, and the top one is New York native finds long lost twin brother after 3 decades, separated at birth 33 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Identical twins meet for the first time. And then under that, it's 6 key moments in the video. That's the first one that came up. So yeah, I mean, 100% agree. You know, they utilize the public sphere for all kinds of experimentation. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, this also goes into things like mass shootings and how many of the assailants are essentially just under mind control and programs. It's just like the assassin of the Pope in, what was it, the 1970s? Was the original John Paul in the Vatican, where the guy blasted him with a couple of pot shots, and then the guy was already known. I find it funny when these people are already supposedly on, and again, this is all just nonsense and propaganda, but you know, these agencies, these you know, surface level agencies like the CIA, Interpol, which is private for those that don't know, and was founded by Rockefeller. All these kinds of scenarios, they come out and they say, "Oh, he was on our watch list." Funny that, isn't it? How they're always on the watch list, and funny how the guy had no memory of taking the shots, and that to this day, having been like studied, because again, you know, even the psychiatrists that kind of go through with them the events following the kind of the killings or whatever, they state openly, because they're shills themselves, and again, it's all public mockery, and they're not allowed to lie. This is, of course, the key factor of masonry. It's order through chaos, but they're not allowed to lie to you. That's why they tell you everything. It's truth in plain sight. They tell everyone everything that they're going to do in code, and it's up to people to make their own destiny based on the information they have. It is a survival of the fittest scenario. You know, you don't see the code, you inject your kids with a load of jabs, and then they laugh in your face, and you end up getting cancer at fucking age 50. And you know, that's really what it's about. And so, you know, they do conduct these experiments on children in the public light, because, you know, that's the real world environment. They want to see, you know, how their product plays out when it's actually applied, perhaps on an industrial level further down the line, because these are all essentially tests. They're all betas. Just like when you bring out a computer product, let's say a mobile application, you run it in a certain environment and see how the public responds to it. And the same is with anything medical related, and the same is for things that perhaps go beyond medicine and beyond the comprehension of most of us, into the kind of spirit world and energies and that kind of scenario.
Yeah, and just to expound on that, it's like they definitely do lie to us, of course, like openly lie, but they will tell the truth through things like predictive programming, i.e., painting a scenario in a movie or some kind of TV show, or having like a quote unquote Freudian slip in like a news broadcast, or like some kind of like political speech, you know, where they say what they mean, but it's kind of like dressed up as a mistake. So yeah, absolutely, duality is their thing, and they will always tell you the truth in some
In
way.
plain sight. Yeah. Even though I guess plain sight is kind of subjective, but I mean, it's there for everyone to see if they train their eyes to see.
Exactly.
One example that came to mind, I was going to say it earlier with respect to something you said, but it was when Joe Biden, who is not, these aren't real people, like he, on camera, he pulled back the flesh on his neck about 15 centimeters, like a piece of elastic, because it's a fucking suit. It's a fucking suit. The whole thing is a mask. I mean, what do they call it again? Is the actual profession, the industry of people that are essentially, they create these rubber suits, you know, really advanced stuff that you see in Hollywood movies and stuff like that. But I mean, obviously, you know, the level of you know, the kind of the tech that's available to, again, you know, agencies that are beyond the comprehension of most people, are no doubt holding things that are just, you know, almost identical to human form. Essentially, that's where we are with robotics now. I mean, you know, kind of, but I can't think of the word. What's it fucking called? It's a form of kind of, it's a branch of cosmetics, and that's specifically your focus in your industry.
Yeah, no, I know it's not quite special effects. It's kind of like makeup, but it's like
It is, yeah. I can't think of the thing, but anyway, I mean, there's a movie with the deceased Robbie Williams, or Robin Williams, apologies, who what was it called? Mrs. Doubtfire. Same such scenario where he pretended to be a woman for, I think it was, you know, months and months and months, to try and get back with his ex-wife, who had a new boyfriend, who was Pierce Brosnan in the movie. Actually, great movie, but you know, that's the kind of scenario, and that's bloody advanced when you think of, you know, that's for a Hollywood movie, and that was back in the 90s. And you know, it's crazy. You know, a man can be a woman now, literally, as far as the status quo are concerned. You know, they implant the idea that you can just change your gender, but realistically, you know, aesthetically speaking, people can look like women as men, and people can look like men as women, because
Yeah.
technology is so fucking advanced. I mean, even Thailand's obviously regarded as the hub of the world for sex changes, and frankly, I mean, I've showed you a picture of that guy that I used to know from the cigarette days, and his name, actually, I probably shouldn't say his name on the podcast, but the guy, he was, let's say, a very average looking chap, to be generous, and the guy literally the guy looks like a fucking 8 out of 10. If you thought he was a woman, he literally has full blonde hair. You could not tell the difference. It's insane. It's
That is
literally insane.
scary
And
as
this is with, yeah, it's scary as hell. And this is with like not a crazy amount of money. This is like free healthcare. I think you got most people on the NHS, and this is
Oh,
maybe a couple of grand here and there. So same in Thailand. Like a lot of people in Southeast Asia, they don't have access to like 20, 30, 40, $50,000. You know, the surgeries they're getting are costing a couple of thousand, and often the results are quite scarily impressive. So again, you know, anything that the public sector has, the you know, defense industry and the people behind closed doors have to fucking 100 times more, 200 times, 300 times. It's fucking insane.
exactly.
Yeah.
Probably 300. Yeah.
Probably 333.
To be fair.
Yeah.
So yeah, and another person to look at, if you just want to see like the extent at which they can do this, is Buck Angel. Buck Angel is like once upon a time a very feminine woman that is now one of the most muscular men looking fucking beings that existed.
Buck Angel. It sounds
Buck
like
Angel.
a porn star.
Buck
Sounds like a
Angel
porn star in a
is
bestiality
porn
movie.
star.
Oh, it's a
Buck
porn star. It
Angel
actually is a
is
porn star. Oh my
A
god.
transgender male porn star. Like it's
Buck Angel.
insane. Fucking
Jesus.
crazy world we live in.
I hope the person that came up with that name is getting decent commission, because that's one of the most hilarious porn star names I've ever heard. Buck Angel for a transgender that's used to. Oh my god!
Yeah, he's won a shitload of awards. Of course.
For what? What do you get an award for in porn?
Yeah, for being like, you know, like a groundbreaking tranny and you know and all these.
Is that the name of the award? Groundbreaking tranny.
Yeah, I mean it's something
Literally
to do
groundbreaking.
with, yeah, literally. Just something that I just thought of back to duality and back to our first topic of like, you know, like these people that fuck babies, and the fact that you said that there's probably as many people that fuck animals as fuck babies. When you go back to
100%.
the Old Testament, and obviously we know whose book the Old Testament is, and yeah, it's funny that God went from getting people to sacrifice animals to getting them to sacrifice their children instead. So there is this kind of correlation between animals and children as both things to be sacrificed and abused, which is in the Bible. In fact, God, and this is just once again, we talk about people that are so-called educated, and like the amount of people that uh, actually religious, the fully, you know, that are, you know, educated is, yeah, and actually, you know, kind of like follow like these narratives is like ridiculous. But yeah, God apparently told, you know, Abraham or somebody to bring his, you know, to bring his child and sacrifice him on the top of a mountain because, you know, to show his love for him. Or, you know, to show his as a devotion to God. And this is what's written in the Torah, the Old Testament, the Torah. So yeah, this is you know, once again, I think it just shows that there's a there's a clear correlation between the two, and what these people value is the blood of innocents. You know, a lamb, hence sacrificial lamb. A lamb is something that's fairly innocent. It's not an aggressive creature, and they're quite cute looking. You know, these like furry white things, and then yeah, and you know, and children. You know, that's what, you know, the Bible was. You know, saying that's what God was allegedly, you know, telling people to do in terms of sacrifice. I just found that an interesting correlation that you said that, you know, that there's probably about as many people that, you know, that are, you know, fucking children as there are, you know, fucking animals, which is potentially true.
It must be. I think it must be on for those levels already expressed. I think there's so many pedophiles on the planet. It's beyond most people's comprehension. But
Yeah,
by
yeah,
that rule, there should be as many people that bang animals because it's just more accessible, isn't it? You know,
uh,
if there's and also there's more variety with animals. There's all different kinds of animals. And by the way, just an elephant in the room, pun intended, because I'm sure someone's banged an elephant. But I would like to know the etymology of the word God. And for any kind of Christians listening to this, or people that are, you know, kind of very much aligned to a particular faith, I don't mean this as a negative with respect to what God actually is. It's just the word itself.
exactly.
I find it unbelievable that backwards it's dog. I just
Yeah,
find that too much of a coincidence. I think
ex-
that's open mockery as well. And it's probably not the original term that was used by people to describe what is the creator. I think it's just more mockery. I think everything is mockery. We know that Bibles and books have been rewritten so many times, and that realistically speaking, at least as far back as we know, there's always been people of authority and power that abuse that authority. Sorry, people in power that are abusing their authority. And, you know, religion has always been the prime tool as a mechanism to gain public support, and they've controlled that tool. So why would it not be rewritten to mock and to their favor? It's completely unrealistic to assume in a society controlled by people that something that is written by a person can remain as the true rules or words of what many people would call God, which is dog backwards. And in my opinion, it's a mockery. And this is a perfect transition into what our other topic was going to be, which was what, James? What is our second discussion point going to entail?
dogs.
Dogs, indeed.
Dogs.
We have come to believe. What have we come to believe, James?
That there is like there's a lot of like there's innuendo that's once again in your face that's just everywhere into society. There's an underground scene of people that dog with dogs. There's like people actually doing dogging with dogs. Like dogging, it's called dogging, we believe, because our people are actually doing this. And people that do dogging probably fucking have dogs most of the time too. But
No,
yeah,
but they're supposed to. That's the thing. That's the idea. I mean, as far as I'm aware, I mean, it could have been twisted, but the term dogging comes from couples that are swingers, and they basically take their dogs on walks. The dog is just a kind of excuse, if you like, to essentially bang other couples in forests. But I'm convinced people are actually banging dogs. And we've seen so many videos that are public videos on marketing campaigns, advertisements, where it's now becoming very normal for people to take animals and lick them and kiss them and get kissed by animals. And you see it all the time. You see it all the time when it's, you know, a product being advertised in the mainstream. And at no point does people seem to think that it's absolutely disgusting that dog. And there's nothing wrong with dogs or cats or animals. Don't get me wrong. You know, just sometimes you're acting normally with them. But for a dog to lick its asshole and then to allow it to lick your face or to kiss it
yeah,
or to lick it yourself, it's strange to me because often these people don't have. I'm not going to say they don't always have children, but a lot of dog owners don't have children, or a dog is like a prerequisite to a family. And would you behave like that with your kids? And I find it really weird as well how often people give way more attention to their animals than to their own children. I just find it really bizarre. There's so many fronts to this, which I guess we'll explore now.
um,
I'd also like to say a cat would never tolerate that behaviour.
yeah. And cats have more sense than to constantly want to lick your face as well. It's like they have more respect for you. They don't want to kind of just like dogs piss on you when they get excited. Dogs
Exactly.
try and shag you because they're naturally perverted animals. I'm not saying naturally perverted. I don't mean like all dogs, like, you know, want to shag all humans, but they're
It's
more
100% true.
they're absolutely more hungry and they're more impulsive, and You
Have you
know,
ever
like
seen a cat try and hump a human being? I've never seen
never,
that. I've
never,
never been
ever
pissed on by a
a
cat when
cat.
it's an adult and excited. A kitten, there's always an excuse, but I've never been pissed on by a kitten as well. But I could understand how that happens. I've been pissed on by dogs in the exact same scenario. And as we discussed before, dogs are dirty creatures. That's why in Islam they don't have dogs. They have no respect for them. You go to Pakistan, you don't see a single dog anywhere. They've all been culled. And that is because there are creatures out there that command more respect. Look at the Egyptians. The Egyptians had cats everywhere because cats are, creatures of intelligence, sophistication. They're clean creatures. A dog represents a personality which is affixed to filth and debauchery and, unprofessional, undisciplined. That's the kind of character that I associate
In
with the
fairness,
dog. There are nice dogs out there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying all dogs. I'm not saying all dog owners, but there's going to be more dodgy dog owners than there are more dodgy cat owners. I don't
100.
think any cat owners are dodgy. Maybe like 99% of them are good.
Yeah, it's just like, bizarre. Like, yeah, a dog will literally be like licking its dick all day, licking its balls, like biting its fucking scabs on its back and doing all of this sort
Oh,
of shit. And like, I would not even let that thing lick my leg or my hand, let alone my face. I just don't like, yeah, like it's just fucking. It's like people are weird. And like, so yesterday, like Jono sent me a video, and like this just shows you just once again like how far we are fucking down the toilet as a species. Literal. So right, you're not allowed. The algorithm will block videos on like flat Earth or dinosaurs not being real, which are actual truths. But anyway, and these are such dangerous topics that are gonna fucking bring down humanity. However, you can literally freely see videos that are not kid blocked of a dog with its snout right up a female's bum crack while she farts. Literally.
yeah, it's true.
Literally.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
On
we can
YouTube
even.
for kids as well, child friendly. It's allowed. It's absolutely sick.
I mean, I don't really
Yeah,
want to give them more views, but we could potentially post a link to it in the
yeah,
video
we could.
description,
Yeah,
just for people to just like see like the open absurdity and and mockery. It's like, so this is what's allowed. People like literally like a dog with its tongue inside somebody's mouth, like licking this woman's mouth. Remember, it was like that video. It was like an Asian or Indian woman, and like the dog was
yeah.
literally just like licking inside of her mouth, and like she's just like, oh
So,
my god,
dude, it's
it's
so gross.
fucking putrid shit.
There's
Uh,
also Comedy Central, which is one of the most shilly channels that exists to this day. It's supposed
Absolutely,
to be a
for
stand-up comedy
comedy, it's
channel on
number
YouTube,
one
but it's
probably.
about yeah. In terms of subscriber count, it's number one because of course it's promoted, and they've always conformed to the atypical US-backed narrative of unless something is diversity times 20, then it's not allowed to be posted. So generally they started promoting people that were like transsexual, black, sprayed pink hair, all at the same time, by the way. They'd have to be they'd have to be like, homosexual or lesbian. They couldn't be heterosexual. Again, they probably couldn't be a white person unless they were making jokes about how useless white people could be. It was something like that. But there was actually a streak, and I've got these in my societal control folder on my Google Drive. There was a streak, and it was just around the whole COVID scenario. Obviously, a lot of people were at home watching YouTube and stuff like that, and all the tech companies were boosting, and they were really like getting their claws into people's minds. They literally just had like 10 or 15 minority people playing the stand-up comedy club in a row, which, bear in mind, like the US is still statistically primarily, again, like Caucasian. These are all American stand-ups. It really shows the narrative. But without going down that kind of sketchy road, the point was one of the most famous ones they promoted is a guy called Big J Oakley. He's a white guy, but Big J Oakley did a whole stand-up comedy routine on how him and his friend watched his other friends basically getting off with this girl in her apartment, and her dog started to essentially get a bit excited at the fact that there was a couple kind of getting it on, and the dog joined in, and she let the dog join in. actually let the dog join in. And that's what the whole stand-up comedy routine is about. It's not an actual joke, it's a true story that's obviously, you know, humor's being sprinkled into it. But this is something that people just accept. It's fucking insane. If your 9-year-old came in and the husband and wife were there and the 9-year-old started joining in, the police would be around the next day, people would be in jail, the kid would be taken away, but it's okay for a dog to essentially be sexually abused by its owner and for a dog to sexually abuse its owner. I'm sure the dog was having a fucking good time from what it sounded like, but that's the point, is that this is acceptable. This is being promoted as something. People are laughing at it as if it's totally normal for a dog to be engaged with adults in like some sexual activity. And again, the YouTube algorithm is promoting it and people are getting paid for that. 100% that was a monetized channel as well. So literally everyone involved in this is fucking sick. And it's the same thing with the whole, you know, US, everything's backed by US trend naturally, but, you know, it's the same thing as teaching kids in schools that are like 5 years old. They've been given pornographic magazines and told, oh, it's okay who you bang. Literally, there's pictures of like kids, not kids, sorry, adults engaging in all kinds of like sexual things. And it's been given to like 5-year-olds in the US. It's in the US syllabus. It's fucking insane. And, you know, we know they promote that kind of stuff. So when we see an unusual trend in YouTube Shorts and TikTok videos and Instagram, we know that this is what they're trying to push. Otherwise, it wouldn't be promoted. Everything that we see is being pushed. Everything is pre-planned, preconceived. So that's why we're seeing this dog stuff, because it's a form of, you know, Satanism. It sponsors kind of Baphomet ideas, occultism, that everything has to be about debauchery, that the family unit, traditional values are just being thrown out the window left, right, and center and being replaced with this artificial nonsense idea that individualism without any restraint is what everyone should be pursuing, that it's totally okay to like whip your dick out in public if you have a gay pride flag on your back. That's acceptable. But if I walk down the street and I don't have a gay pride flag on my back and I walk my, you know, pop my dick out, I'm going to be in jail. Flashing. I'm going to be in fucking jail. And there's literally kids around. People are bringing their babies to so-called pride events. And again, we've talked about how actually it's completely homophobic. The idea that all gay people somehow behave like that is not totally true at all. You know, most people don't. But again, the idea is to promote the fact that it's debauchery is cool. It's totally cool to just do shitloads of drugs and, I don't know, whip your cock out. And whoa, if it's not crazy, it's not normal. That's essentially the scenario of you know, the modern agenda. It's fucking mad. And animals, I'm telling you, people are part of this plan, because the whole point is to mock the general public. These people take people's kids, they steal their blood, they fucking kill them. People actually still think this is a conspiracy theory. This was literally in the news, as we said, like a week ago. New Jersey hospital found to be stealing the blood of babies that have literally just been birthed in hospital. No parental consent. They're stealing blood, and people are like, oh, it's just for money. It's not for fucking money. People don't realize the fucking, like, the cultural significance, the ritualistic significance of, you know, blood and sacrifice for these people going back hundreds of years. It goes all the way back to the tribes of Israel. There's cases in the 19th century in Damascus of people being killed and their blood drunk in the streets. And they've been doing this behind the scenes. That's what child trafficking is about. Child trafficking isn't about pervy men banging 9-year-olds in basements. Now that of course happens, but it's certainly a minority. Percentage of it, you know, they probably, you know, a lot of it's organ harvesting as well, but organ harvesting and sex trafficking don't even make up a minuscule of what these kids are actually being trafficked for. They're probably sexually abused first, then their organs are taken, but the whole purpose is the blood. It's all about the blood. It's all about the genealogy. It's all about having power over people's kids. You control people's kids. You not just control the next generation. You set a trend for what's coming 10, 20 years down the line, but you control people, because people are always going to be more loyal to their children. So once you manipulate people's children, you manipulate them. And that's the irony. That's the crux. That's the kind of the oxymoron and the kind of illogical nature of today's society. It's the children that control the adults, not the adults that control the children. In states like Canada, or countries like Canada, which is in essence a state of the United States, which is we're all a state of the same centralized lobby, but they will take people's kids away. They took a guy's kid away from him because he openly stated on the internet that he doesn't agree with vaccinations and that he doesn't think his children should be given COVID vaccines and all this stuff. So he was already in in a him and his wife were broken up, so he had custody of the child like 2 weeks. It was separated, so they took his custody rights away because he refused to allow his kid to be vaccinated. And they've done the same thing in Sweden, as we've alluded to before, given the example of the Russian man whose wife was put in a mental asylum, and instead of giving the children back to their father, they gave the children up for adoption to an Islamic family, a conservative Islamic family, again to destroy the equilibrium of society, to create as much division and sadism and sickening practices as possible. And it's all controlled by a centralized cabal of people that have initiated into this kind of this occultist fucking this bond. But before I go on a rant, which that already was, I return to you, James.
So what you said about dog and God, and it's funny because today we're talking about dogs and kids. Dog, 3-letter word spelled backwards. God. Kid, 3-letter word spelled backwards is
dick.
There you go.
Yeah, it's true. It's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence.
It's not at all, and it never is, ever. And even when you get like acronyms like greatest of all time, which is goat, and the goat is Baphomet, which is the devil, which represents duality, which is half animal, half human, half male, half female. And it goes on. It's literally ingrained in everything. And also they're both 3-letter words, and it's 33, God, kid, it's it just goes on and on and on.
And on.
But yeah. I mean, we've done 56 minutes.
Yeah, I guess we'll round it off as an hour. It's amazing how quickly this all goes, isn't it? I mean, probably because I rant for half of it and then forget that 2 days has gone by. But yeah, no, I mean, these are really important subjects. I find them so interesting, but just like anything, we could talk about them forever, couldn't we? So I guess it's important to wrap up.
Yeah, and especially if you're fucking banging animals, you dirty pervs out there, make sure you wrap up.
Yeah, and also I would say to the listeners, just look at, if you've got some friends that own a little, like, a couple of huskies, maybe 3 or 4 little poodles, a couple of pug dogs, just start questioning, what do you reckon they're up to on the weekends? Just look at your friends differently and think to yourself, why didn't they get a cat? Why wouldn't they get a cat? Low maintenance, clean animal, soft. Everyone likes a cat. Dogs, I'm suspicious. I'm gonna throw a percentage out there and just say that I reckon at least 33% of dog owners are into bestiality.
I think that's a good
believe
number.
it.
One in three.
1 in 3.
1 in 3. Especially if they're like single females. I think that demographic is probably like the highest among like the dog abusers, or the dog users, should I say. Right. Because
all right.
I think it depends on, I think it basically depends on what breed of dog as well. Like, I think some people might have like a dog that's like, oh yeah, it's a fashion status, like some people actually don't really give a shit about their dog. Obviously, some people mistreat their dogs, so that's probably people in the minority. But then you've got people that fucking almost treat their dogs like they're humans. They buy their dogs clothes. They say that their dog, oh, you handsome, oh, you fucking handsome. No, you're not.
Well, this is another thing that we talked about before, right? For me, this is the main thing. Imagine owning a creature and having to pick its shit up. Just, it's not your child. It's not something that you've birthed, that is a part of you. You've opted to buy an animal that you're supposed to keep until the day it dies. So I don't know, around 20 odd years, and it
15,
goes and it shits, and you pick its shit up with your hand.
15, yeah.
Yeah, and you pick up its crap with your hand. I mean, it's just as low as it gets, isn't it, really? I just find it just absolutely just baffling. But there we go. That's society. Most people jab their kids about how many jabs does the average baby have before it reaches its 10th or 11th month? It's something insane.
It's 23 or something.
23 jabs, something like that. It's something crazy. In the US, it's really high.
Yeah, it's just
yeah. People think that's normal. Like human beings have been around, well, since the dawn of time, as far as we're told. And then all of a sudden, in the last, what, I don't know, 70, 80 years, people are injecting their children with all kinds of poisons that they can't even comprehend. Before its first birthday, it's had over 20 different jabs for various things. It's absolutely insane how stupid people are. But without ending on too much of a negative, we shall pass across to the next vlog or video or whatever it is people are intent on watching tonight. And I hope you guys enjoyed. And what's our topic next week going to be, James? Any ideas? Why cats are so good.
Why so good? We could definitely talk about that for a while.
Was that pun intended?
Like predict it. I mean, who doesn't love a pussy, right?
Well, I can think of a fair few.
I mean, even fucking women like pussies, but yeah.
I feel like that's just been a YouTube strike there. That's.
I mean, no, because actually it's promoting what they want, isn't it?
No, that's true. Yeah, that is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's probably going to get us monetized.
That's true. Yeah. No, we're never getting monetized. We're not even pushing for it. It's actually impossible. The idea that we could even get, I think it's like you need something like 4 million views a month or something fucking. Yeah, it's 4 million short views a month you need, and also you need to bow your head to the Baphomet and support all the standardized narrative. So we obviously don't do that, and we'll be lucky if our channel survives probably another year or so, because I'm sure 2024 has some new. They're going to unleash some new policies as it's policy month. Some new cyber laws, new cyber law, and they love their hate speech. I mean, the Germans. Did you hear about the pre-Christmas police scenarios in Germany? The raids, the hate speech raids. There was like 500 raids in Germany of hate speech. So people that have committed so-called hate speech. So basically people having an opinion, putting their opinion online, and the police are now raiding those people's homes while people are literally being raped and murdered by actual criminals. And the police, who there aren't enough of anyway, and they all work for the status quo and they're all a bunch of dogs, they go and raid Jeff's house because Jeff made who knows, maybe a racist comment online. And all of a sudden someone's being shot in the street because there's no police officer to monitor what's going on in that estate. Or, the police officer wasn't there when, I don't know, Terry pulled out a fucking sawn-off shotgun in a supermarket and blasted a kid away because he was too busy storming Lisa's house because Lisa said she doesn't agree with vaccinations. So very Germany. I mean, as we know from Germany, there's the oldest, there's a lady that denies the Holocaust in Germany. She's a very elderly lady, never committed any violence in her life. She's in fucking prison. She's in prison because she has an opinion. That's insane. There's an old lady in Germany who is in jail because she doesn't agree with something. That's the level of, and the irony is, this is the irony, right? These are the people that are like, oh, you can't talk about the Nazis. The Nazis are really evil, blah, blah, blah. And it's these people that have put an old lady in prison for having an opinion that they don't agree with. It's just like, you can't make this shit up, can you?
The irony of this is insane. So, what if, like, something that you can get locked up, Holocaust denial, interestingly, is one of the things that's banned. It's banned to question things. And ironically, the story that you were talking about that happened before Christmas happened on a cusp on the 21st of November 23, which has a lot of numerical connotations. If you've been listening to us through the 15 or 16 or so episodes, you will know that cusps are important dates. And that's on the 21st. And all of the world's publications were covering this on the 21st. The New York Times, the Times of Israel, of course, and the Independent. And it was 17 people accused of, posting, which is 7 minus 1, 6. So yeah, as always. Oh, and another thing as well about these alleged, hate speech raids is that it was people that are seen as extreme right and extreme left. So extreme left would probably be, I don't know, maybe just talk about flat Earth and anti jab, or I don't know. I mean, what can be extreme left? Actually, that's it. Free Palestine or something like that. Let me see what's like extreme left. Whereas,
It's extreme left and not to support a genocide. That's now considered
yeah,
extreme left. Yeah.
extreme left, yeah, absolutely. And extreme right would be, saying that, the census and the numbers for certain historical events don't quite add up.
Yeah.
That
And you know
could,
what's funny? If that's
yeah,
considered extreme, if I chop someone's head off in the street, what if it's extreme to just make a comment that someone disagrees with online? So, for example, disagreeing with a specific historical narrative, that's illegal in Germany for said topic, and it's punishable by prison. And you're considered extreme, in this case, extreme right. What is chopping someone's head off, or killing someone, or shooting someone, or dealing drugs to kids? If that's extreme,
yeah,
extreme is the extremity a descriptor for. So you can't go beyond extreme. That's the absolute maximum word. It's fucking
exactly,
ridiculous, man. And do you know
exactly.
what? There's a thing a guy said recently. He was really shilly, actually. He probably works for the state, but what he said was absolute perfect value. Any group of people that you feel uncomfortable talking about in society, they're the oppressors. If you feel that you can't talk about a certain group because you're scared there's going to be a reprimand for it, you're scared you might lose your job, you're fearful, something might happen. Those are the people in charge, because people with no power, no one has any fear of them. If I started talking now about how much, I don't know, Eskimos just bother me, their cultural behavior. Eskimos don't bother me at all, people. I don't know anything about Eskimos. But I know there's not going to be a reprimand, is there? Because Eskimos don't have any power. They live up in the ice in Greenland and they hunt
Exactly.
their seals, right? I wouldn't have any fear for that. If you're scared, or if you have to double think every time you talk about a subject matter, which is natural if we're willing to talk about it, because we're ingrained, we're conditioned to follow these rules, those are the people that are the problem in society, period.
Agreed. I think that's the perfect note to go out on.
Indeed, it is. Well, I guess to all the listeners, enjoy the coming week, and hope the festive period was nice. And we will catch you, I guess, next weekend,
Yep, or maybe even before then.
or
This weekend.
even before
This
then.
weekend.
Who
Yeah,
knows? This weekend. Oh yeah, this weekend. Oh, same for me. I always
yeah,
say next is this.
yeah. It's
Either
just a
way,
day.
au
It's just a
revoir.
day. It's just a day.
It's just a day. It's just another day. Indeed. All right, man. Well, catch you in a bit. Yeah.
All right. Speak to you soon,
Bye.
guys. Thank you.